What's up everyone, who are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto disguised himself as a girl, but fell into his own trap? If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description to original creator for this beautiful creation. The sun was glaring through the thin drapes of Naruto's apartment. As always, he couldn't really afford much in terms of house decorations as most of his money was spent on rent and food. But with the amount he had left, he was still able to spice up his place a little bit. Naruto begrudgingly got up and headed towards his washroom in need of a hot shower. Now that Sasuke had returned to the village, the original Team 7 was reunited again and all three of them were now Chunins. Well, Sasuke is also an Anbu member, but he's just been recently recruited. This meant harder missions, which in turn meant more money. Naruto was proud to have more money to provide himself with more hot water and slightly more nutritious and filling food. Naruto was lathering and rinsing his troubles away, that is until he decided to soap himself down. He had encountered a little problem: he had a very ample chest. Naruto yanked open the shower curtains and looked at his reflection in a nearby mirror. "You've got to be kidding me." Naruto ignored his completely changed voice to take in his features. He saw that his skin had lightened to a peach color. His golden hair flowed down gracefully to the ends of his shoulder blades. His eyes became an icier shade of blue and his trademark whiskers have completely vanished, as if they were never there to begin with. His facial features have gotten softer and his once hard-earned muscles had become leaner, further emphasizing his now slender physique. Long story short, he had become female, a very beautiful and well-proportioned female, completely different from his no jutsu form. This time he looked like an actual girl instead of the female version of his original self. He groaned and hung his head over the sink. Okay, not a big problem, right? I'll just find Ka. The perverted teacher crept into his mind. Oh, second thought, I'll head over to old lady Tsunade. Why did I even think of that lecture in the first place? Naruto quickly dried himself off, ignoring the fact that he wasn't able to finish bathing. He tried to search for any clothes in his closet other than his orange and black ninja gi, as not to notify the villagers that it was really him. Much to his surprise, he found a simple light gray long-sleeved shirt and a pair of dark blue capris. He didn't really care how he could have found other clothes in his belongings, but this was a state of emergency. He gave his hair a quick brush, although it took longer than usual, and headed out the window to Tsunade's office. Naruto reached the windows and lightly tapped on them to see if Tsunade had been in yet. To his relief, Shizune was looking through a stack of papers on Tsunade's desk. She looked up towards the sound of the tapping and noticed a pretty young girl in slightly baggy clothing. Shizune opened the window for her and let her in. "You know, it's customary to enter through doors when you want to meet someone, but I guess you're in a hurry. Is there anything I can help you with, miss?" Naruto looked at Shizune with wide eyes. She couldn't recognize him? Well, he couldn't recognize himself either at first, but had the change really been that drastic? I'm here to see Tsunade no S-sama. Naruto didn't want anyone to know of his predicament, not Sasuke, not Sakura, not anyone. Only Tsunade had that right, as much as he hated to admit it. Shizune looked through a notebook she pulled out from her robe. She doesn't have any engagements scheduled right now. I'll see if I can grab her for a quick meeting with you, but I will advise you to book an appointment prior to the date, okay? She smiled. I know it's more than short notice, but this is an emergency. Really? Well, I'll see if I can find her. What is your name, might I ask? So Tsunade-sama knows who it is she will be talking to. Crap, Naruto became bright red. He didn't think of an alias. All of the girl names and last names he could think of were popping into his head a mile a minute. Shizune was confused. Surely you must know your name, right? Unless that's the emergency. No, my name is, anything will do. H on Ndamin Nako, 1. Alright Minako-chan, I will be right back with Tsunade-sama. Please have a seat while you wait. Naruto flopped down on one of the seats in front of Tsunade's desk and let out a huge sigh. Thank goodness I have music at home. I never would have thought this name if it wasn't for my purchases, and Sasuke said I was an idiot for buying them. You can eat your words now, you bastard. I beg your pardon? Naruto froze. Had he said that last part out loud? He could have sworn it was a mental yell. I will assume that your last comment was directed towards somebody else instead of me for your sake. Tsunade made her way to her desk and stood next to it, carefully looking over the strange girl. Now, my assistant has informed me that you required my presence. An emergency, as you have put it. Why yes. Tsunade no, Sama? Tsunade raised an eyebrow at the girl's corrected speech but didn't press on. If you don't mind. Can we have this in private? Tsunade nodded. Shizune, head on over to the Konoha hospital. They're in need of assistance there. Hi. Shizune vanished. As requested, Tsunade walked over to her chair and sat down. Now, this emergency you speak of? It's me Tsunade no Bachan. Naruto whispered as he was a little paranoid that there might be an eavesdropper or two. If you've come here to insult me then you've got another thing. Tsunade. No, Bachan. It's me. Look, Naruto whipped out the necklace. Tsunade's eyes widened like no other. Naruto. What the, how? What? Let me explain this to you in as little words as possible. I woke up like this. I didn't eat anything strange last night, I didn't tamper with anything I wasn't supposed to touch, I didn't piss off Sakura or Ino, nothing. So, you just woke up like this? And then, Tsunade and Naruto talked for some time. Naruto kept recalling everything he had done the night before as well as any major places he had gone recently. They tried to think of any logical explanation as to how Naruto's sudden gender change might have occurred. He kept explaining to Tsunade that it definitely wasn't his no jutsu gone wrong because he looks different in that form compared to now. Since it was his own technique he was clearly able to pick out the differences between both forms. The both of them tried a few ways to get Naruto to revert back to his original self but all proved to be failures. So you've chosen to go under an alias known as Honda Monako? Yeah, I'm impressed to think you could devise such an original name and yet you're unable to follow instructions correctly? Tsunade playfully added, this isn't funny. Oh, but it is. For me anyway. Now, you plan on keeping that alias until we can find a way to reverse what has been done, right? Yeah, as of the moment, it seems permanent. But the both of us don't know what might have caused this so it's hard to say how long it will last or how it will affect me in the long run. Well, there's not much we can do now. I'll see if I can find an outfit for you to better suit your current physique. What's wrong with the way I'm dressed now? Tsunade scanned Naruto's attire. Although they may not be your usual outfit, it's clearly not the way a ninja should dress. They're too baggy and loose. If anything, you'll be spending too much time falling on your face, ripping or tearing it, and finding yourself in uncomfortable positions should the pants decide to fall off. Tsunade was hoping that Naruto would have gotten that last statement. Fine. Furthermore, you will continue being Sasuke's regular teammate. I will make up some excuse for your absence and hopefully he, as well as others affiliated with you, will buy it. In the meantime, you will be referred to as one of my recent students. Sakura might be a little bit harder to convince as both her and Shizune have been my only pupils so far but play along with it. I will do what I can to in the convincing process. Make up a story about your life and stay consistent with it. Report every single fact and event that comes out of your mouth regarding Monaco's life story. Finally train as hard as you can to devise new jutsus for you to use. Using your techniques such as the Cage Bunshin and the Rasengan are a dead giveaway. We don't want any plot holes that might encourage questioning. Quote, but nothing. This is what we're given and this is what we will do with it. Naruto made a pout but Tsunade kept on going. Now come with me. The first thing we need to do is to get you used to your new body. We'll start off with your clothing. We will head for a few shops and hopefully it won't take us too long as both you and Sasuke have a mission in about a few hours. Crap, the mission, damn it, Sasuke will probably be the hardest to convince. What if he finds out? Unfortunately, the shopping trip took much time longer than she thought. Although Naruto was able to have a suitable outfit, it wouldn't have taken so long if he wasn't so picky about the color. Next came choosing a bra and a pair of undergarments for him. That was even more frustrating. Naruto had become a girl after all and since he was 16, he needed support, for lack of a better word. Finally, Tsunade decided to teach Naruto about feminine hygiene. Let's just say that it involved a lot of yelling. Although embarrassed 100 times over, Naruto was happy with the outfit the most. It was a sleeveless, orange, button-up top. At the back, with 4 golden zip-up pockets, 2 across the chest and 2 in the usual place. The shorts were also orange, just ending at about mid-thigh where the shuriken holster on his left leg just ended at the hem. The footwear was your standard black ninja shoes, but they reached up to the kneecaps, exposed the heel and had a white shin guard over it. Protecting his elbows were a pair of black elbow pads. As an extra accessory, the top had 2 large yellow ribbons along the sides of the outfit, a bit beneath the armpit, that were to be tied behind at the back to further keep the top from opening. The tied ribbons went a little bit past his waist. Finally, his long golden hair was placed up in a high ponytail with the use of a simple piece of black ribbon. 2. The outfit itself wasn't all that bad. Naruto actually thought that he looked pretty damn good as a girl. Strangely enough though, with his hair up in a ponytail and the style of his outfit, Naruto could have sworn that he was looking directly into the face his old academy classmate Yamanaka Ino. He smirked at the thought of Sakura having a slight hissy fit at the thought of Ino doing a mission alone with Sasuke. Even though Sakura had matured a lot over the years, the girl could still be a frightening force when she was peeved. Both Tsunade and Naruto headed for his and Sasuke's meeting place as Tsunade had been informed not too long ago. According to Minako's pocket watch, they were only 15 minutes late, which wasn't too tardy. As usual, the dark-haired Uchiha was patiently waiting at their usual spot with his arms carelessly crossed over his chest. Will there ever be a day when he's not on time? Naruto mentally chastised. Sasuke looked up in surprise when he saw the Hokage escorting a girl that he had never seen before in his direction. Good morning, Sasuke. I hope you weren't waiting too long, were you? No, Hokage-sama, not at all. Where's Naruto? That's what I've come here to tell you. As you have noticed, Naruto isn't going to be attending you today, or for quite some time to be honest. He is on a special solo mission for me as a liaison between Konoha's hospital and the small medical centers in the Fire Country's neighboring villages. It is uncertain of how long his mission will take, but he will return to the village eventually. In the meantime, I'd like to introduce you to his replacement. She is a recently accepted student of mine who had just started working under me a few days ago. I'd like you to meet Honda Minako. Sasuke raised an eyebrow at the new girl. Although having no recollection of seeing her at the Ninja Academy while they were younger, he decided that would be something he would have to bring up later. She seemed like any other girl and frankly Sasuke wasn't too pleased. Now Minako, as explained to you before, your time with me will have to be cut short because you will be a temporary replacement for Naruto. Once he has returned, we can resume our lessons. Naruto nodded at Tsunade's explanation. She's good. Oh wait. Respond. Hi Tsunade-sama. Wish me luck. Tsunade smirked. Let's hope this doesn't fall to pieces like it normally does. Now, I must return to my previous engagements. See you later, you two. And please be careful. Though you may be a recently recruited Anbu member Sasuke and you a Chunin Minako, your mission is still a dangerous one. We will. Bye Tsunade-sama. Naruto gave his salutations to Tsunade and Sasuke waved her goodbye. This girl is a Chunin? As Tsunade walked away, Naruto turned to face Sasuke. It wasn't going to be easy. He would have to wing it from now on, but he thought of this as excellent mental training. If he can pull off being a girl, in front of Sasuke no less, for as long as he can, then there was literally nothing he couldn't do. Meanwhile, Sasuke was still having thoughts about the new girl. There's something odd about this new girl. It can't be just a coincidence that the Dobi is all of a sudden off on a solo mission without informing me and this new girl replacing him in the same day. Surely Sakura would have mentioned if Tsunade had a new student. I thought she was the only one. Something seems out of place here, and I plan on figuring it out. Sasuke was looking at Naruto apprehensively as if he was studying him. Naruto was getting a little nervous, but most of his time was spent thinking of his life story as Minako. This was going to be both long and painful. The silence between the two was unnerving. Come on you bastard, say something. Anything. The silence is making me believe that you've already figured me out. Move. Do something other than breathing. Minako. Sasuke answered in a very dark tone. Eep. Before we begin this mission, I'd like to test out your abilities on my own. Since you are Naruto's replacement, you will have to be up to par with him before you can even think about teaming up with me. I don't care if you're a girl or the Hokage's newest student. You will have to prove yourself worthy of being my teammate regardless from the Hokage's orders or not. Still an ass, even to strangers, huh? Guess it can't be helped. So, unwilling to work with others unless they're up to your standards? I never knew you valued your old teammates so highly. You must be the picky type, aren't ya? Minako made a sly smile as Sasuke's right eye twitched. But in response to your request, I never refuse a challenge. You may be an Uchiha and an ANBU, but even the mightiest of warriors can still fall from grace. I hardly believe that someone such as yourself would ever hold back under no circumstances, am I right? You'd better get that stick out of your ass, oneness, because this is one person you're gonna wish you wanted to play nice with. She's over there. Sasuke pointed to a field in the distance still inside the village's borders. There's plenty of room for us to move around and we won't cause damage to anyone or the buildings. Darn, and I wanted others to witness your defeat at my hands. Minako vanished before Sasuke had the chance to respond. Sasuke raised an eyebrow at that last remark but sped off towards their training ground. When both ninjas got there, they stood a few meters apart from one another staring at their opponent. The summer breeze blew by, further increasing the tension between the two warriors. As requested, I will give it my all, therefore it's a free-for-all. Obviously nothing fatal, just enough to wear the other person out. Enough talk. Both fighters took their battle stances. Out of nowhere, Sasuke completely disappeared from sight. Minako closed her eyes to become in tune with only her sense of hearing. There, Minako raised a knee up and blocked Sasuke's kick. Sasuke was of course surprised. It was Minako's turn to vanish as she immediately appeared behind Sasuke and wrapped her arms around his waist, performing a suplex on him. When Sasuke's neck hit the ground, he turned into a log. Typical. Minako flipped her legs up and pushed herself away to avoid the 3 shuriken aimed at her torso. Naruto was surprised at how light and flexible his new body had become. Normally he wouldn't be able to move around with such ease because of his slightly bulkier mass as a boy. He smirked. With a body such as this is a guaranteed win. Get ready to eat dirt, you smug-faced jackass. Sasuke appeared behind her and aimed a punch for her head. Minako moved her head out of the way just in time and grabbed Sasuke's arm, throwing him over her shoulder. Ha! Sasuke easily flipped and landed safely. Sasuke tossed 3 more shuriken at Minako, but somehow it seemed like Minako read his mind and threw 3 kunai daggers at him. 2 pairs negated each other, but the middle ones went past each other. Sasuke jumped back to avoid the kunai, whereas Minako got hit in the shoulder. Minako of course turned into a log. Not bad for sparring. Sasuke almost didn't notice the exploding tag on Minako's shuriken. Shimata. Sasuke leapt high into the air as the weapon beneath him exploded. Ninpou. Kusariken no Jutsu. 1. Sasuke turned his head towards the sound of Minako's voice only to have a golden chain made of chakra wrap around his ankle. What the? Minako smirked from her place on the ground and yanked down on the chain as hard as she could. Ah! Sasuke was heading for the ground, back first. Kaden. Ryuka no Jutsu. 2. Not only had his jutsu propelled him backwards to change the direction of his fall, but he was able to use Minako's chakra chain as a pathway for the inferno. Shoot! Minako dispelled the chain around her wrist and rolled away, leaving the incoming fire to blast the ground where she stood. She took her battle stance as Sasuke flipped to safety and took his stance as well. He smirked. Not bad at all, you have potential, but let's see how you fare when the difficulty has been raised. Minako was panting, but a smirk appeared on her face as well. Just as I said, give it your all. Anything you throw at me, I'll counter it right back. Both fighters rushed towards each other with closed fists. The battle was intense. From the bushes nearby, 4 sets of eyes were spying on the 2 fighters. Wow, who is that hot blonde duking it out with Sasuke? She's like beating the crap out of him. Woof. She does have a certain radiance about her, and it seems as though Sasuke is putting some actual effort in his fight. Remind me again why we had to follow you too. You can be so troublesome. Because we wanted to wish Sasuke and Naruto good luck on their mission, you lazy ass bum. But since there's some random girl with him instead of Naruto, it has become my utmost duty to find out who she is. Lower your voice, Ino. They might hear us. Plus I can't hear what they're saying. Don't blame me. Shika just can't seem to grasp simple concepts. He may be a genius, but he still lacks intelligence in the common sense department. Sure, let's stick with that. Quit squawking. Even Akamaru is quieter than you two and he's 3 times your size. Shish, it's still going. Both fighters were panting as light patches of dirt marked their clothing. Still not wanting to give up until the other gave in. "You're not so bad yourself. You really aren't as useless as you look." Sasuke whipped out his wakizashi and charged towards the girl. "Ha!" Minako's eyes widened. "You ass!" Minako reached behind her back and whipped out the chakrams that were strapped there and dispelled the protective leather cover around the blades. Tsunade had bought them for her while they were shopping and recalled what she said about them. "Since you're going to be changing your fighting style, I thought these might come in handy." "What are those?" Minako eyed the two large yellow rings with a crescent-shaped blade at the opposite end of the handle. "3. These are chakrams. Despite their slightly plain appearance, they are a very versatile weapon and can be used for both offense and defense, short-range or mid-range combat. Offensively, they can be utilized as an extension of your fist for hand-to-hand combat or as suitable projectiles from a distance when thrown. Defensively, unlike most weapons, their ring shape, when crossed over each other, can block physical attacks such as punches and kicks due to their larger surface area. It can also be used to trap handheld enemy weapons such as swords and spears. It's not as useless as you think, just like you." Tsunade smirked. "Hey." Despite the chakram's fairly large blade, it wasn't really all that big nor was weighty. Before she could think anymore, she saw Sasuke thrust his sword at her gut. Acting in instinct, she crossed the two rings together and ducked, successfully trapping Sasuke's blade and avoiding contact with it. Sasuke smirked as he kicked the closed rings, pushing Minako down and freeing his sword. Minako stumbled a bit on the ground, but she quickly got up and backflipped away. Sasuke didn't move from his spot as he blew some fire onto his wakizashi. He brought it around his face and made a horizontal crescent-shaped slash in front of him, sending out a wide fiery crescent moon at Minako. Kenjutsu. Higetsuzen. 4. Minako blocked with her chakrams again, but the attack was too strong as it flung her backwards with a lot of force. Her back hit a nearby tree while getting a few burns and slashes on her fingers and forearms from Sasuke's attack. The chakrams that she tightly held onto flew out of her hands and down to the ground. Minako hunched herself against the tree in pain, trying to stand up. She saw Sasuke slowly walking towards her. "You put up an impressive fight. I'm surprised you were able to last so long against me." Minako growled and chucked 3 kunai at Sasuke, but he easily deflected them with his sword. She continued to struggle to stand up and began to perform a few hand seals. "If I learned anything from spying on Kurenai-sensei while she was training with Asuma-sensei, then this is going to take Sasuke down. Just give up now. No matter what you try, the battle is over. You're too exhausted and injured to go on. It's not over, until I say so." She's so stubborn. She performed the final hand seal, Genjutsu. Tuya Fubuki. 5. Minako disappeared into a whirl of peach blossom petals. "Huh?" Sasuke noticed that when the petals appeared, they remained suspended in midair as if someone stopped time. He sensed Minako's presence, but it was moving at an impressive speed. He saw her appear near one of her chakrams as she picked it up. She disappeared and reappeared again at the other one, grabbing it as well, leaving more petals upon her disappearance. She appeared one final time into the air and threw both of her chakrams at Sasuke, flying towards him in an X-shaped arc. "Ha!" Sasuke made a small chuckle. He vanished and appeared behind Minako, causing the flying chakrams to embed themselves into the ground. Sasuke kicked Minako in the back, causing her to cough up blood and fall towards the ground fast. She landed heavily onto the dirt below, causing a cloud of dust to appear around her. Sasuke landed right next to her body and looked down at her. "Look, I didn't mean to press on this far. I'll request the Hokage to deal with your injuries and to postpone the mission till tomorrow. I must say, you are quite the impressive." Minako's body disappeared in a cloud of smoke, only to reveal a wooden log and an exploding tag attached to it. "What the?" Sasuke back-flipped away, but the impact of the explosion pushed him back a little. Out of nowhere he heard something. "H-h-h-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a-a- across the ground near the area to where the bulk of the petals were. You're mine. Minako performed one final set of seals. Ninpou. Tuya fubuki. Natsumai. 6. Sasuke struggled to stand up as he saw all of the orange petals begin to swirl around him at a fast pace. He didn't have much time to react as the nearby petals began to cut him in numerous places across his body as if they were made of metal. Ha! Minako threw one more kunai dagger with an exploding tag near Sasuke's feet as the petals disappeared from sight. Kate Kuso. The dagger exploded, causing a few nearby trees to incinerate and Sasuke's body to land on the ground with a heavy thud. Minako celebrated her victory inside her head. Victory is mine? She collapsed to the ground exhausted from the battle. Little did she know that Sasuke approached her fallen form and knelt down beside her. He actually gave a little smile. Very impressive. He looked at his clone nearby and watched it transform into a wooden log. It seems as though I've met someone other than Naruto who can put up a worthy fight. Sasuke picked up Minako in his arms and held her up bridal style. You deserve a good rest. We will begin our mission tomorrow, as a team? Sasuke vanished with the girl in his arms, heading towards the Konoha hospital. Sasuke Keikun was almost defeated by a girl. Kiba, Shikamaru, and Akamaru awaited the screaming. Miraculously, it never arrived. That girl, how could she manage to fight Sasuke and still manage to last that long? Not to mention she used a few jutsus that I thought only Kurenai-sensei could use. I wonder how and where or whom did she learn them from? Whatever the reason is, we have borne witness to a girl who can fight Uchiha head-on without losing in 2 minutes. Shikamaru blushed when he thought of the girl. She looked like Ino, but she somehow seemed prettier. Good thing this wasn't said out loud. Shikamaru, what are you thinking? Ino asked in a very disgustingly sweet voice. About that girl, why do you ask? Oh, I think you made someone jealous, Shika? Woof. Despite the other three talking away, Sakura had a few thoughts on her mind. That girl, Sasuke acknowledged her as a strong ninja. He actually became a bit serious while fighting her. Although she lost, it seemed as though Sasuke was almost willing to admit defeat. No one has made Sasuke act that way. No one, except Naruto. Could Sasuke have found a girl that's right for him? Could she be the one to actually be worthy of Sasuke's time? Caught up in her thoughts, Sakura had almost forgotten that Naruto was away on a solo mission. Minako felt the summer breeze flowing through her hair with her cheek pressed up against something hard and slightly warm. At first she thought she was lying down on a comfortable bed, but she only felt pressure from behind her knees and behind her shoulder blades. Basically the middle section of her body was dipped as if it were in a hammock. This is nice. She slowly opened her icy blue eyes and noticed the white, padded plate of Sasuke's armor. She was being carried. Sasuke. Sasuke looked down at the girl in his arms. Oh, you're up? Minako blushed a little bit at the fact that Sasuke was carrying her. She didn't really understand why. Do you mind putting me down? You sure you're okay to walk? Yeah, I'm not really all that tired, so there's really no point in continuing to carry me any further. Sasuke nodded and gently eased the girl down. I was about to take you to the hospital to get your wounds tended to as well as to give your body a rest. But it seems as though you don't need it. I assumed you would since you passed out during our match. It technically wasn't over since I was still standing, but I guess your body just gave out. I passed out? Minako held a hand to her head. Yeah, I did, but I don't think it was because I was tired. Sure, the battle was intense and I was getting a little bit tired, but not to the point of exhaustion that would lead me to faint. Sasuke raised an eyebrow at the girl. She can't remember? Well, let's just forget about this for now and talk about it some other time, okay? Better to talk about it later when I can actually find out the reason as to why myself. Maybe Tsunade no Bachin could figure out what happened after I explain it to her. After all, we have a mission to attend to, and because of your little test, we've been held back for. Minako looked at her pocket watch. An hour and a half. Sasuke still remained as indifferent as ever. It was necessary, so see if you were able to become my teammate. It was also a little critique session as to what you were capable of. It turns out, you're pretty good. It's been a while since I've had a good spar. You're off the hook now, but I will find out who you really are. There's something about you that I can't put my finger on. As much as I don't wish to admit it, you're the first girl who I've actually had to strategize against in a fight. Interesting indeed. Besides, an hour and a half is not a lot of wasted time considering the distance between Konoha and Iwa. What I had planned for Naruto and me was for the both of us to reach the nearest Earth country village from the border by around 9 p.m. If I include the hour and a half we spent fighting each other, it will be a bit late, but it's nothing we can't handle. The next morning, it's straight to Iwagakure. There we will wait until nightfall to execute our mission. It may be far, but it's not impossible. Do you think you can keep up? Minako got a little peeved. What are you saying? Are you implying that I still can't hold up to your standards just because I'm not Naruto? I got through your little test even though I blacked out for some unknown reason. What more do you want from me? For crying out loud, I was implying that after your blackout, as you put it, you might have wanted our pace to be slowed down. I thought you collapsed from overexerting yourself, but now that it wasn't the case, we can continue on without any further delay. Oh, well, fine. But give me just a few more minutes. Thanks to you, my arms have been slashed and my outfit has been burned in numerous places. I was just about to suggest for a change in your attire. The colors are far too bright. You're too noticeable and you stand out too much. You're going to cause this mission to fail if we get intercepted at every corner because of your outfit. You? Minako glared at Sasuke. You're walking on thin ice. Minako stomped away in the direction of Tsunade's office. Then she noticed something. Wait, where are my? I've got them here. Sasuke motioned with his thumb that Minako's weapons were strapped onto his back. Now get going. Arg. Minako vanished. Sigh. She's exactly like Naruto. Far too stubborn to listen to simple instructions and the eagerness to fight till the bitter end. Her fondness for the color orange is uncanny. I have a hunch, but not until I have the right amount of evidence to convict her. If she actually is Naruto in disguise, this mission will get very interesting. Sasuke grinned. About 5 minutes later, Minako came dashing back towards Sasuke's direction. When Sasuke saw her speeding across the building roofs, he activated his Sharingan on her. Much to his surprise, Minako was not Naruto in disguise. She was her own person. Even though the evidence was there in front of him, he still has his suspicions about her. Minako landed in front of Sasuke with a much more appropriate outfit. Although the design was practically identical to the old one, the shorts, elbow pads, shoes and her top were all black. The large ribbons behind her back as well as her shin guards were an off-white color, similar to an Enbu member's armor. Aside from the color being an obvious difference, the top had a hood, and covered only half of her upper body, much like Ino's outfit. Underneath her half-top was a simple off-white sleeveless leotard that mainly functioned to cover her mid-drift. Secured around her waist was her black Konoha Academy headband. Although Sasuke didn't really bother with minor details, he noticed that now the both of them were wearing the same colors. That's much better. Although the ribbons might be a little bit light, the rest of your outfit will allow you to blend in with your environment much easier, day or night, but most especially night. Sasuke grabbed Minako's chakrams from behind him and handed them to her. Here, now we can actually begin our mission. Finally, we would have saved our lost time if it wasn't for your little test. Are you certain it was for our benefit to work as a compatible team? Are you sure it wasn't an ego problem instead? Sasuke rolled his eyes as the two of them darted off out of the village and towards the Earth Country. As Sasuke predicted, the two were made it to their destination but a little bit earlier than planned. About half an hour earlier than planned. The closest village from the Fire Earth Country's border was only 27 kilometers inwards. The both of them did stop for 2 half-an-hour breaks to give their feet a rest from the constant traveling. Unlike his usual missions with Naruto, this one with Minako occurred in complete silence. Neither one of them struck a conversation with the other during the trip. Unless you count the momentary, "wanna take a break?" question. Sasuke found this a little bit strange considering when they first met they couldn't get out of each other's faces. But this is a mission and so it wasn't necessarily a problem. Both ninjas finished setting up their tents while Minako agreed to start a fire and Sasuke agreed to catch some fish for a late supper. Minako was gazing into the flames with her knees pulled up to her chest as she waited for Sasuke. She spent a lot of the silent travel time thinking of her life story, but her thoughts on her gender change continued to haunt her mind. She closed her eyes and emptied all other thoughts, focusing on the enigmatic life form that resides within her. Kyuubi? Are you there? Yes, Kyuubi, we haven't really been on nice terms so to speak, but I have a question that I need you to answer for me. Such guts, you actually believe that I would humble myself down to answer a human, let alone the one whose body is my prison? This is urgent, you arrogant mutt. It's not like I've asked for your wisdom on a daily basis or anything. Just listen to what I have to say even if you don't want to answer it. This morning, I woke up in this body, a female's body. My appearance has completely altered, although I still have a few minor similarities to my original self. The change has been so drastic that the few people who I've come in contact with didn't even recognize me, and they are the ones who are the closest to me. At first I thought it was my no jutsu gone wrong, but I've tried reverting back only to have nothing happen. I've only asked Tsunade no Bachan for help on anything that could define both the cause and a possible remedy for my problem, but she was stumped for ideas. I could ask Kakashi-sensei and the perverted hermit, much to my disdain, for help on this too, but if they can't find anything wrong with me either, then who am I supposed to turn to? You're the only one who I can ask for help at the moment, so, do you have any idea of what has happened to me? Sorry I'm late. A few of the ones I caught earlier were still small fries, so I waited until I got the adults. Sasuke came back with 2 very large fish. Minako jumped out of her thoughts and looked at the Uchiha. Oh wow, they're huge. They must have been a little hard to catch considering their size. A bit, but at least we still won't be hungry once we're finished. Sasuke skewered the trout with a few sharp branches that he carved out before catching their meal and set them down on the fire. As the fish were cooking, Sasuke broke the ice. So Minako, since the Hokage has chosen you as Naruto's substitute, I'm guessing she's informed you of our mission objectives? Minako still waited the response from the Kyuubi and didn't hear Sasuke's question. Sasuke cleared his throat. Huh? What? I asked you if you knew what our mission was about prior to teaming up with me. Are you feeling alright? Yeah I am, sorry. Just have a few issues on my mind. But yeah, Tsunade-sama has told me what it's about. We're on a recovery mission, right? She didn't get into specifics as this whole ordeal with me and Naruto was sort of a last-minute decision. If you don't mind, could you give me a good detailed description of it? Just so I have a little bit of background knowledge as well. Although Minako lied, she had to make her acting as convincing as possible. She mentally smirked. I am so good at this. Sure thing. An old mafia group in the Earth country has somehow acquired a set of medical scrolls with highly praised information regarding chakra-based operational surgery. Although it seems a bit strange as to how they could benefit from medical knowledge, rumor has it that they have been linked to cases regarding innocent civilians who have woken up one morning only to feel a lot worse than the day before. As the days progressed, no matter what medication or treatment they may have been prescribed with, their condition worsened and worsened until they eventually succumbed to death. Their autopsies had shown that their deaths weren't caused by a disease, wound, or harmful substance but from the result of an organ that had been completely removed from their body. There have been cases of a missing heart which obviously resulted in an instant death. Very few have survived, but only to live with a missing eye, tongue, kidney, or even parts of a limb such as the toes and the fingers. Disgusting, just plain disgusting? Even though she knew about the mission, she still cringed at the gruesome details. The major hidden villages of the world these days pay large sums of money for organs used for transplanting surgery, so it comes to no surprise as to what happens to the missing body parts. Higher sums are given to the professionals who can perform such operations and other surgical procedures, which also sparked the rumor that the mafia may be performing illegal operations right under the village's very nose. Minako was eating some of her freshly cooked fish while continuing to listen in interest. The Hokage wants us to not only investigate the rumors but to also retrieve the scrolls for her. I'm sure she has her reasons for it. The leader of the mafia, Takatori Raiji, 1, has been known for his merciless band of shinobi followers as well as his philosophy on rising to power through fear and destruction. No one has ever located his headquarters, but thanks to the spies the Hokage has sent prior to the mission, they have narrowed the Earth country down to a small area northeast of Iwagakure. The added bonus that the Hokage has given to us on this mission is the bounty she placed on Takatori's head for his capture. She made an agreement with the Earth country's Tsuchikage indicating that he would get Takatori while she would get the scrolls along with additional reward money from Iwagakure for apprehending one of their most wanted criminals. I'm not sure if she has mentioned that extra little bit to you as she told me earlier this morning. This is most likely an A- rank mission than the supposed B-rank mission she had initially informed you for it to be. Don't worry, she wouldn't have sent you on this mission unless a qualified Junin or Anbu member was accompanying you. We won't be alone on this either. There is a small inn inside Iwagakure that is also our rendezvous point with the 5 spies she dispatched to the village 2 weeks ago. Monaco's heart got raced a little. At first she thought it was just going to be another B, C rank mission, which were always boring but not to the extent of D rank missions. But now, the new and sudden details of the revised mission objectives, giving it an A- rank, had gotten her blood boiled. This mission is going to be better than I thought. Sasuke noticed the girl's strange smile. She even acts like him too. Naruto's been dying to go on an A- rank mission ever since the mission in the water country with Zabuza and Haku. Idiot, he should know that that privilege is only given to Junin or higher. Again, their similar behaviors could be just a coincidence, but for some reason, I don't think that's the case. Anyway, that's as detailed as I can get about our mission. Sasuke began to eat his fish as well. Well, at least I fully know what we're up against. Thanks, Sasuke. Thank you indeed. Now I'm more than eager to complete this mission. Sasuke nodded as he continued with his fish. The both of them ate in silence as the crickets chirped into the night air. When the two of them finished, Sasuke extinguished the fire and headed for his tent. We will wake up at around 7 a.m. tomorrow. According to the map, it's around another 120 kilometers northwest from our current destination. We should be able to get to the hidden village by the early afternoon. From there we will head for the rendezvous point and inform the Konoha spies of our arrival. Minako nodded. Well, good night, Sasuke. Good night. Minako got into her tent and removed her ninja wear, sleeping in only a plain dark blue t-shirt and matching shorts. She lay her head down on her sleeping bag and rested her arms up behind her head. Well, day one is almost over. And so far nothing has really gone wrong. It was silent for a bit until her thoughts began to speak. I'm still waiting for an answer, Kyuubi. Don't interrupt me, human. But if you require an answer, maybe I have it and maybe I don't. That is all I will give you. That's the most useless thing I've ever heard. Why won't you just simply tell me? We've known each other for 16 years and you ain't coming out of me anytime soon, so swallow your pride and tell me. You arrogant piece of? You better not provoke me, human. You may be my prison, but we still share the same body. Just as you have access to my power, I have access to your heart. You wouldn't want me to do something impulsive now, would you? What do you mean? Don't be stupid, I know you innermost desire. And it is not to become the Hokage of that cursed village. Minako gulped. Good, you understand. Taunt me again, human, and I can easily take control of your body and fulfill your deepest lust-filled desire. I'm sure he wouldn't appreciate it if you just waltzed right into his tent and did a few things right. Minako trembled a bit. Okay, I won't do it again. Just please, I don't want to lose him. Even if we can't be anything more than friends, I can't have him taken away from me, not again. You're starting to use your head. As for your predicament, I have an answer. But it could be the wrong one, who knows? Maybe I do, or maybe I don't. That's how it will stay. You certainly live up to your reputation for aggravating people and playing mind tricks with them to no end. All in due time. Minako decided to stop thinking because she wouldn't be able to get another ounce of sleep if this continued. She looked to her left and saw her utility pouch. Maybe there's something I can amuse myself with to get me to sleep. Sure enough, her hands touched a scroll. A light green scroll with Konoha's seal on it, to be precise. She practically forgot it was in there. Minako. Take this with you. I will not explain to you what it is, as the material should be self-explanatory once you open it. Plus, it will help emphasize a few things. So, you old bat, what's this little present about? Minako ripped the seal and gently opened the scroll. Its writings contained the basic knowledge of becoming a medic nin. The first few sections went into detail about using chakra to heal and mend open wounds. She was certainly surprised that the old hag would give her something like this, but then it finally kicked. She is a recently accepted student of mine who had just started working under me a few days ago. Figures, how can you call yourself one of her students if you can't apply anything that she supposedly taught you? Minako began to read the scroll and only focused on the sections describing chakra healing. Surprisingly enough, she read for about an hour until she decided to call it a night. Now that the knowledge was in her head and in her hands, there was only one more thing to do: practice. A small happy feeling swelled up inside her as she thought about everything that has happened to her within the last 15 hours, from her weapons and the few new jutsus that she used on the first try, to the medical scroll from Tsunade. Her thoughts about the Kyuubi and Sasuke had left her mind for this brief moment in time. Maybe becoming a girl wasn't so bad after all. Minako was standing in the middle of complete darkness with nothing more than a full body mirror in front of her. What was strange about that? Instead of presenting a reflection, it presented a small timeline of her life as Naruto. Everything from the taunting and the ostracizing from when he was only 3, to the battle with Sasuke that caused him to lose not only his closest friend but also a little bit of his heart. It kept replaying over and over, never once stopping. Minako fell to her knees and screamed into the mirror, slamming her fist against it to destroy the terrible memories. Stop! Get away! No matter how hard she tried, the glass stayed intact, not even denting as if it were made of diamond. She clutched onto the frame with her head down. Voices began looming all around her. Monster, demon, filth, failure, disgrace, we were never friends? No, that was the final straw. With as much might as she could, she gave the mirror one final punch as it smashed into a million pieces. In that brief moment of pure despair, she became Naruto once again, slouched on the ground, completely nude, blood-stained arms, and surrounded by sharp fragments of a broken childhood. He continued to tremble. The silence went on for what seemed like an eternity, with only the echo of his muttered cries to keep him company. But then, gentle voices and familiar faces began to appear all around him, each one mending his heart just a little more. Kakashi. My, you sure are the stubborn one, aren't you? Iruka. How about another bowl? Just to make sure you're full tonight. Sakura. You're back, both of you. Sasuke-kun, Naruto, thank heaven. Ino. Why don't I spice up your apartment with a few blooms? It needed something fresh anyway. Shikamaru. Stop getting excited, can't you stay put for a few moments? Choji. Want to come over for dinner? We always make lots. Neji. I'm no longer bound to the chains of fate or destiny, and it's all thanks to you. Lee. May our next battle be as glorious as the previous one. 10-10. Are you okay? You shouldn't sneak up on me like that. Kiba. Yahoo! Way to go, Naruto. Hinata. I believe in you, Naruto-kun. Shino. Be careful. Even a tiny insect can hold a very lethal poison. Konohamaru. Moegi. Udon. OSSU. Oyabu. Inari. One day, I hope you'll become the greatest Hokage that ever lived. Tsunami. You've given our family and our village new hope for the future, we are forever in your debt. Tamari. I can't thank you enough for helping to save the both of them, they mean the world to me. Kankuro. He's changed, somehow I get the feeling that it was your doing. Gaara. No longer do I feel the need to harm others for pleasure. Shizune. I know this great place where you can get very tasty drinks. Tsunade. Become a great man. Jiraiya. No. A woman's hot spring is strictly research. Yamato. Concentrate. Harder. Sai. I promised to protect that bond you shared with him, it's far too precious. Sasuke. I can't guarantee that I'll stay here forever, but I will promise to never leave those I care about behind, never again. His body glowed faint white as each bloody wound healed and was replaced with a warm and gentle feeling. The shards of glass disappeared and the darkness swept away. Minako opened her eyes and saw the light tan canopy of her tent. She rubbed her eyes and sat up. She grabbed her pocket watch from a small flap in her backpack. 6:34, I still have time. She got up from her sleeping bag, grabbed a few of her utilities and walked out of her tent. She noticed that Sasuke's tent was gone, probably packed, and his backpack had taken its place. Probably off somewhere training. She headed for the nearby river to wash up a bit. After brushing her teeth and giving her face a cool rinse, she decided to comb her hair. How do girls stand this? Ow! She was having some difficulty getting a few strands untangled. Frustrated, she headed back towards her tent to change. After getting into her outfit, she stood outside her tent still trying to comb through her troublesome locks. Arg! Here! Minako stood frozen as the comb was gently taken out of her hands. Sasuke poured some water from his water bottle onto the comb and gently brushed Minako's hair. Within a matter of minutes, her hair was finally free of the tangles for now. Sasuke placed the comb back into her hands. Minako turned around to look at a slightly wet and shirtless Sasuke. Thanks. Her cheeks went pink. Now get your stuff packed up and disassemble your tent. If we plan to make it there by the afternoon, we have to leave in 15 minutes. Alright. After both teens finished packing up their stuff, Sasuke offered both himself and Minako a few rice balls for their breakfast. Once the severe hunger pain had died down, they continued their journey. Like last time, the trip occurred in complete silence. They got pretty far without having the need to stop, that is until about 12:25. Sasuke suddenly halted his movement and scanned his surroundings. What is it, Sasuke? Something's not right here. Minako stood back to back with Sasuke and scanned west while he scanned east. Yeah, I feel it too. Follow me. As if she could read Sasuke's thoughts, she placed her hands in the tiger seal along with him. Kai. The both of them dispelled their surroundings as the clear pathway in front of them revealed a heavy forest of bamboo trees. Sasuke picked up a nearby rock and tossed it forward. When it landed, the sound of hundreds of kunai daggers were flung into their direction. Sasuke pulled out his katana and channeled as much chakra as he could into the blade. Minako noticed tiny particles swirling around the blade that looked a lot like snow. Kenjutsu. Hyousou Hojin, Hana. 1. Sasuke stabbed the katana into the ground and caused massive spikes of ice to appear all around them in a tall rosette-shaped fortress. The clanging sound of the daggers against the ice structure rang in their ears. When they were sure that the last of the kunai had been directed at them, Sasuke unearthed his sword as the ice vanished into a whirl of snow. Careful, I don't think we're free yet. The both of them dropped down their backpacks and Sasuke pulled out his wakizashi while Minako pulled out her chakrams. Show yourself. A sinister laugh was heard through the air. All was silent for a bit until Minako. Sasuke sheathed his wakizashi, while still carrying his katana, grabbed Minako by the waist and darted upwards. From the ground they were just standing on, shot out a circular area of jagged rocks that reached up, almost touching Sasuke's foot. Thanks Sasuke, hang on tight. Minako held both chakrams with one hand and whipped out her chain to her left, latching onto the branch of a tall tree. Sasuke held on to the girl as the both of them swung safely to the ground. In front of them appeared two men who were staring at them in interest. Renegades. Minako tightened her grip on her chakrams. I must say, for brats, you're actually not all that bad. Although it comes to no surprise considering one of you is an Uchiha. You were impressive enough to block our arbalist unit and sense our underground attack. Very impressive indeed. Who are you two? We are on a little greeting mission, so to speak. Word has it that two brats from Konoha are on their way to the Earth Country to retrieve something of theirs. More like taking back what was stolen. Easy Minako, as the old saying goes, those that fight together, die together. And here is where you little lovebirds are going to have a tragic conclusion to your story. He's not my boyfriend. Both men snapped their fingers and out of nowhere came a fast-blowing wind of dust and sand invading their sight and reducing their visibility. Sasuke and Minako could hardly see in front of them because of the disturbance, but they still held their ground with their backs to each other. Out of the corner of Minako's eyes shot out a kama, too, attached to a chain. Minako pushed Sasuke slightly aside and rose up one chakram while kneeling down. The kama wrapped itself around the chakram. Not bad, for a girl. Minako gasped as the chain gave a violent tug upwards, pulling her towards the direction of its user who took to the air. Minako, your fight is with me. The other man came slashing down from the sky with a large sword in his hands. Sasuke crossed his swords together and blocked the incoming attack. His opponent's sword was pressing down on his own blades with a lot of pressure. As Minako rose up into the air, she used her free arm and cut the chain with her chakram. She back-flipped in midair and landed on the ground. She saw a figure in the distance and began to charge at it with her chakrams, assuming it was her attacker. When she slashed at the shadowy figure, it disappeared as if it was never there to begin with. Ha 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 ha, where are you aiming? Minako growled as she saw the same figure to her left. She shot out her golden chain towards it. She smirked as she hit something, but only to be yanked again heavily in that direction. She tried to dispel her chain, but she wasn't quick enough as she was greeted with a heavy kick to her stomach. She dropped her chakrams as she fell to the ground, skidding across it for a few feet. Come on, at least provide me with some entertainment. Minako growled again as she chucked 6 shuriken at the sound of the voice. The projectiles disappeared into the dusty wind and she was greeted back with her own chakrams flying towards her. Damn, she used her chain to whip her chakrams out of the air and down to the ground. From behind her came out 8 shuriken that were aimed at her head. She sensed them a split second before they hit her and ducked to the side. What she didn't notice was that there was a thin line of string attached to each one of them. The shuriken followed her movements and pinned her down on the ground by her trailing ribbons. Frustrated, she yanked up as hard as she could from the ground, tearing the ribbons while she was at it. She stood up only to encounter 3 more shuriken aimed at her chest. She easily jumped to the side and took her battle stance again. Consequently, she didn't notice that she landed on a large puddle of mud that began to pull her downwards. Ha 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 ha. Minako could hardly see, but a few shuriken were thrown in her direction. She moved her upper body to the side only to immediately have 3 more come from behind her, embedding into her right shoulder. Ah, what's wrong? Find yourself a little useless? Sasuke, annoyed with having a standoff with his opponent, slipped down to the ground and threw his legs, rising up behind him. Sasuke gave a slash with his katana but was easily blocked by the bigger sword. The man forced down his sword and pushed Sasuke away. He stabbed his sword into the ground and used it as a stand to send a sweeping kick to Sasuke's face. Sasuke blocked with his arm and almost didn't notice the group of senbon that darted out from small panels in the guy's sword. Sasuke used the wakizashi to block the needles and jumped back away from the guy. The man unearthed his sword and battled Sasuke in a little fistfight. Sasuke sheathed his swords and challenged the man at his own game. Punches and kicks were thrown in all directions and attacks were guarded on all levels. The guy aimed a heavy punch to Sasuke's stomach and connected. Sasuke grunted but only to turn into a log with an exploding tag on it. The man smirked. He easily jumped away. Sasuke flew towards the man with a jump kick aimed towards his head. The man blocked it with the flat end of his sword and pushed Sasuke away. Sasuke flipped through the air and threw a barrage of shuriken and kunai at the man that was easily blocked by his wide sword. When Sasuke landed, he darted towards the man with his sword out in front of him. The man easily vanished and appeared behind Sasuke, grabbing him in a headlock. Is this the true extent of an Uchiha? I'm not even trying. Sasuke tried to stab the man behind him with his katana only to have him disappear again. Ha! The man's shout came from above as he slashed down towards Sasuke. He knew he couldn't block it this time, so he jumped out of the way, causing the man to hit the ground and form a crater with his sword. Sasuke rushed towards the man again with his katana and found himself in another weapon deadlock. Their swords kept clashing against one another, ringing through the air along with the roaring wind. The man slashed down and Sasuke blocked it, but only to have him get pushed down on one knee. In the blink of an eye, Sasuke unsheathed his wakizashi and stabbed the guy right through one of his wrists. The guy made an agonizing scream as the pain caused him to loosen his grip on his sword. Sasuke quickly pulled it out and backflipped away. You rotten little shit, you'll pay dearly for that. He raised his large sword high above him as it shone through the dusty wind. Doden. Bakuretsu Uha. 3. He brought his sword down with a heavy slash as it cracked the earth, causing large, jagged rocks to erupt from his position and fan out in front of him at an alarming rate. Sasuke's eyes widened as the sharp chunks of earth headed towards him. He leapt backwards a bit to try and outrun it, but it proved to be futile. He leapt up into the air only to have the jagged rocks trail after him, each one climbing higher than the next to impale its target. He slashed and kicked from side to side, propelling himself from each rock while trying to avoid getting skewered. Ha ha ha. Keep running, Uchiha. How long can you manage to avoid Mother Earth? She is eternal. Sasuke then decided to use the rocks to his advantage instead of as an obstacle. He sheathed both of his swords and leapt from rock to rock in an upwards direction. When Sasuke reached near the tip of one of the taller rocks, he channeled his chakra to his feet and jetted himself up towards the sky. The rocks still kept chasing after him, but they weren't able to keep up with his speed. Sasuke flipped a few times in the air and performed a few hand seals. He positioned himself to face the earth below him as he raised a slightly closed hand to his mouth. Kaden. Goenka. 4. From his mouth shot out 3 huge balls of fire. When they reached the ground, they exploded upon impact, erupting into pillars of fire and creating craters in their wake. The man on the ground was overpowered by the explosions that he was flung backwards with a lot of force. The dust around them cleared for a bit and Sasuke was finally able to see his perpetrator. Sasuke channeled his chakra through his katana, making it glow silvery white. Kenjutsu. Hasajanya. 5. Sasuke chucked his katana towards the man's sword that was left on the ground. It flew through the air like a comet in the blink of an eye. The katana stabbed right through the large sword and shattered it to pieces in a flash of light. The dusty wind was still irritating her senses, and her lower body had completely submerged into the mud. She painfully pulled out the shuriken that were lodged into her shoulder and threw them to the mud beneath her. She felt her body grow painful and a little cold as the dusty gale force winds attacked her exposed flesh. This is fun. Watching a helpless girl struggle in vain. Priceless. I'm gonna make you eat your words, you bastard. If I can't see or hear all that well, then Sasuke must be having the same problem, right? As much as I hate to go against my word Tsunade no Bachan, it's the only other option I've got. I should be fine as long as he doesn't notice me, right? Minako gripped her right arm on her left wrist as she channeled a large amount of chakra into her left palm. She controlled and compressed it together into a spiraling ball shape. As a consequence of the chakra, it created a small whirl of wind all around her, freeing her vision of the annoying dust particles. In the distance she could make the outline of the creep who trapped her this way. The harder you struggle, the faster it'll take you in until it completely swallows you whole. You've lost. I think it's about time you shut that annoying mouth of yours up. You are going to wish you never pissed me off. Rasengan. Minako shoved her hand into the ground as the area of mud all around her began to swirl around at a fast pace, flying up in all directions, creating a dry crater where she was sinking. An area of the dusty wind cleared around her as the chakra ball was still spinning in her hand. She leapt out of the crater and landed on solid earth, dispelling her jutsu while she was at it. I am possible. How did you escape? Although she couldn't physically see him, his outline was still visible. It's a little thing I like to use called my brain, something you should have considered using when you decided to trap me in that jutsu of yours. My lower body may have been helpless, but my arms weren't. You've just made your biggest mistake. Minako performed a few hand seals. Megan. Jubaku Satsu. 6. Minako's body began to disappear into a hypnotic swirl. Where did she go? The man was assaulted with growing tree roots from around his feet and a rapidly sprouting tree from behind. More roots appeared as they entwined against him, slamming him against the trunk of the tree and constricting all movement, slightly knocking the breath out of his lungs. Sasuke landed on the ground as he saw that the dusty wind began to completely clear away, returning back to a cool breeze and leaving the air completely clean once again. His attacker was on the ground, trembling in fear as he saw the shattered remains of his precious sword. Sasuke looked at the man with a glint in his eyes until he saw a beautiful red maple tree some distance away to his right with the other man trapped against it. The man on the ground looked in Sasuke's direction as well. Please, let me go, I'll do anything, spare my life. Minako paid no attention to his cries for help as she emerged out from the trunk slightly above him. She loomed down at the helpless man with a smirk and a sharp kunai in her hand. She replied at the man with a hateful gleam in her eyes. What's the matter? Find yourself a little useless? The man looked up at the girl in pure fear as she slightly raised the dagger up and quickly plunged it down deep into his body, right through his heart. Ah! The man's scream echoed everywhere as the red maple leaves disappeared, leaving behind the dead version of a once beautiful and healthy tree. The illusion vanished as the man's dead body fell to the ground and Minako landed quietly beside him. She saw Sasuke and the other man in the distance. Please, spare me. I promise I won't hurt you. Just please don't kill me. Sasuke raised an eyebrow. Spare you? After it was you and your lackey that wanted to kill us? I beg of you. We were just following orders. Minako walked up right next to Sasuke and looked at the hapless man on the ground. From who? Takatori. Rag. Sasuke and Minako looked at each other. So he knows we're coming? Why yes. I'm not sure about you two in particular, but he knew that Konoha would send 2 of their ninjas to retrieve the Emmy medical SCR rolls. Enough of your pathetic stammering? Sasuke pulled out his katana again and touched the tip of the blade against the man's neck. Minako gently placed one of her hands on Sasuke's arm and whispered to him. He might know something. Let's take him with us for questioning. Maybe he could verify the rumors regarding Takatori and the scrolls. It's just as you said. They are only rumors and maybe he can give us the evidence we need to verify or falsify them. Sasuke eased down and whispered back. Fine, we'll take him, but I won't be questioning him like a civilian. He attempted to kill us, so he doesn't deserve any special treatment. Minako sighed. Come on, you're going to follow us to Iwagakure, inform us of all you know and answer any questions that we might have. Why yes, I promise. And if you don't? Sasuke made a swipe at the man's neck, making a very small wound but still one that would bleed. I will make sure you die a very painful death. The man began to cry a little bit as he nodded at Sasuke's hate-filled words. Do you have to be so dramatic, Sasuke? What's with the attitude? Sasuke ignored Minako's comment. Minako went to go retrieve her fallen chakrams and their backpacks. When Minako came back, Sasuke was still staring hard at the man. You will carry our stuff for us and her weapons. But you are going to make yourself useful to us in more ways than one. If you don't try anything funny between now and the time we've finished interrogating you in Iwagakure, then maybe I could let you off easy and send you to prison. The man made a distinct gulping noise and decided not to aggravate the Uchiha or his teammate any further. He obediently took their backpacks and Minako's chakrams. You ready? Before Minako could respond, a sharp pain got the best of her. The shuriken wounds from earlier began to sting. You okay? Yeah, just got a little careless. Sasuke walked behind Minako and noticed her wounds. Sit down and take off your top. Minako blushed. You pervert. Would you rather have me rip a hole in it? Minako didn't argue as she obediently took off her half-top. You get over here. The man carrying their stuff quickly made his way over to the two teens. Inside the middle zipper pocket of the backpack on your left are bottles of ointment and disinfectant, some gauze, and medical tape. Take all of them out and prepare some gauze so that I can patch up her wound, now. The man retrieved the said items with no hesitation. He gave the bottles of disinfectant and ointment to Sasuke first and began to prepare the gauze bandage. Sasuke gently lowered down the right shoulder strap of Minako's leotard so he could be given better access to her wounds. He applied the disinfectant to a patch of gauze and wiped the 3 wounds. Minako hissed in pain, but it was all for the sake of healing. Besides, it's not like she really needed it anyway. After Sasuke cleaned it up, he gently applied a menthol-scented ointment to the wounds, gently massaging them as they began to heat up and cool down. She shivered at the sensation. Minako blushed the entire time. Her heart couldn't stop beating and all rational thinking flew out of her head. She didn't once make a sound. After Sasuke applied the gauze and the medical tape, he stood up and placed the first aid items back into his backpack. Feeling better? Minako put her top back on and stood up with Sasuke. Yes, very much. Thank you. Minako smiled at Sasuke and in turn received a nod from him. Let's go, we shouldn't be too far from Iwagakure. The man spoke up. He's right, you're only another hour away from its gates. Do you think you can run with that shoulder of yours? Yeah, that ointment of yours is really doing the trick. I think I should be okay. After all, we're only using our legs. And that guy has our stuff. She pointed her thumb towards the man. Wait, what is your name? Takeo, miss? Minako gave a smile and bowed to him. Minako, and that block of ice is Sasuke. It's nice to meet you, Minako-san, Uchiha-san? You are going to go ahead of us so we can keep an eye on you from behind. Remember, no funny business. Takeo made a nervous nod. Follow me. The 3 ninjas continued towards the direction of Iwagakure, not noticing the lone figure that spied on them the whole time. As Takeo said, the 3 of them arrived at Iwagakure's impressive gates within the hour. They were of course halted by a few Anbu guards that were positioned there. But they didn't encounter any problems with Sasuke and Minako. Takeo on the other hand seemed much too suspicious for a mere man who simply got lost, but Sasuke tried to convince the guards as much as he could with his wit. Although still a bit shady, the guards let them through. What they didn't notice was that they were exchanging a message. They've arrived, they are indeed Konoha ninjas as one of them is an Uchiha. However, they've also arrived with a third person. We've easily identified him as one of his subordinates. Should we keep an eye out on them? No, leave the 2 children alone, they are the ones we've been expecting. Although I thought we were supposed to have 2 males and not 1 male and a female, probably a last-minute change. As for their travel companion, I will keep my own eyes on him. Understood. When Sasuke, Minako and Takeo got a room, Takeo placed their gear down on the ground and sat down on one of the available futons. Sasuke wrung a hand through his hair and was the first one to talk. The two of us will be going to the Tsuchikage's office to inform him of our arrival. You will stay here in this room until we get back. That is when we will send off our signal to also inform the Konoha spies of our arrival. Once we're all united, the 7 of us will begin to plan out our mission. Oh okay, Uchiha-san? The two began to head for the door, but Minako stopped for a bit and whispered into Sasuke's ear. How will we know he won't leave? I mean, it's not like an inn is on constant supervision or anything. Don't worry, he won't be leaving anytime soon. Distract him for a bit. Do anything to keep his attention away from me for a few moments. Okay, Takeo, can I ask you something? Oh okay, Minako-chan. What, whoa? The moment Takeo turned around, he was presented with Minako's cleavage, centimeters away from his face. She was slightly bent over, resting her hands on her knees. Her half-top was loose, sliding down her arms as the white leotard she was wearing was exposed and showed her ample bosom with its low V-cut. Minako shook her cleavage a bit. Eat it, Takeo, you wouldn't happen to know of any large mountains nearby, would you? I'm in desperate need to find some moss for a little project of mine. Sure, I can easily find it at a store, but they are so much better when they are fresh. Takeo had a nosebleed at the young girl's exposed chest and her overtly hints. His face was turning red and he lost all common sense as his eyes and his mind were completely distracted. Sasuke rolled his eyes. How vulgar. He performed a few seals while Minako form was blocking Takeo's view from him. Ninpo. Nihon Shouja no Jutsu, 1. Takeo felt a sudden jab in his chest and saw a flutter of white feathers swirling all around him. His thoughts were now getting hazy as his eyelids grew heavy. Within a few seconds, he collapsed onto his futon in a deep sleep. Was that the only thing you could think of? Even directing his attention outside would have been much easier. Well, you said anything, right? Minako made a playful pout while Sasuke sighed. Let's just not talk about it. He's out cold and we have somewhere to go. Sasuke vanished from the doorway. Hey, wait up. Welcome, honorable warriors of the great Tsunade of Konoha. It is quite the privilege to have the both of you with us. From their kneeling position on the floor, Sasuke and Minako raised their heads to look at the one who had spoken to them. We humble ourselves before you, Tsuchikage. Arise. They did as they were told and stood upright in a military fashion. The three of them began to talk about the mission assigned to them from Tsunade while the few Junin and Anbu guards stood by and listened. So you two have been sent to not only retrieve the stolen scrolls but to also investigate the rumors surrounding Takatori and the medical murders? But you two are still young. That may be the case, but I'm an Anbu member and she is a Chunin. She's also a new medic nin under Tsunade, so we're not your average team of two. In all honesty, we aren't exactly the only ones assigned to this mission. There are others with you? Stationed around Iwagakure, yes, there are 5 of them. Totaling your team up to 7 members? That is correct. The Tsuchikage nodded and continued. We do not have much to offer you two, but if you require any of our ninjas for your mission or any of our available services, please don't hesitate to ask. Save your warriors for your country. We are strictly here on Konoha business and plan to fulfill our duties thoroughly. Such words, as expected from the noble Uchiha clan. Very well, I wish you two the best of luck. We will pray for your safety. Many thanks. Minako nodded with Sasuke as the both of them left the Tsuchikage's audience chamber and exited through its large doors. Will they be all right, Tsuchikage-sama? I am still uncertain. Although I do not doubt their skills, Takatori is notorious for murder by ambushes regardless of how young or experienced his victims are. Send 3 of your troop members to watch over them once they execute their mission. They may be Konoha ninjas, but in my eyes, they're still only children. Understood. The Anbu guard vanished. When Sasuke and Minako reached their room, Sasuke spoke up. You were certainly quiet in there. Yeah, sorry. I actually really didn't know what to say. Even though you told me about our mission, you know more about it than I do, so I thought it was best for you to do all the talking. I could hardly breathe in there. Was it just nerves or something else? How come no one else in the room looked uncomfortable? Sasuke raised an eyebrow but didn't press on any further. I'll go send off the signal to inform the others that we're ready. Sasuke nodded his head in Takeo's direction, still passed out on the bed in the same position as when they left. Wake him up and get some answers out of him. Minako nodded and Sasuke headed back out of the room. Now, how to wake a person up? Minako first tried the typical methods such as poking, shaking, light face slapping, but they didn't work. She went a little more on the offensive and began to talk into his ear. Pour a cup of water on his face and use a sharp object to poke him. Still it didn't work. Finally, she decided to use the ultimate method. She gave him a hefty punch to his stomach. Oof. Finally. That got you up. Minako-chan. Now, be a nice little hostage and cooperate. We're going to play a little game of, tell me or die, okay? There is only one rule, and that is to either, tell me, or die. Simple, right? Takeo gulped at the girl's cheerful yet scary threat. He was in no position to do anything funny as Minako, as beautiful as she was a skilled ninja who killed his partner without even giving it a second thought. What makes things worse is that Uchiha kid that's teamed up with her. On top of it all, he's probably being spied on as of this very moment. He couldn't tell if it was an Earth ninja or one of Takatori's, but his little sixth sense never failed him before. Now, I'd like to begin by asking you, how much do you know about Takatori? We'll progress on to more specific questions later. Well, the interrogation process went smoother than she thought. Either Takeo was a great actor and everything he'd been telling her for the past hour and a half was complete bull, or he was really serious and was actually spilling everything he knew out of him. Regardless, there wasn't any proof that he was being sincere or making it all up, but it all sounded reasonable. Unbeknownst to the both of them, Sasuke and the 5 other spies were not only planning their strategy for the evening's attack, but they would also eavesdrop a little bit and listen in on Minako and Takeo's conversation. They heard some very interesting things, but nothing that would give them new clues or hints to Takatori's ulterior motives. Sure enough, the one question that Sasuke was hoping that wasn't going to be asked from the spies was asked. So, what happened to Naruto? And who's that babe in his place? I'll be brief. Apparently Naruto is on a special personal mission for the Hokage, and Minako, the girl, is his temporary substitute. Don't know much about her and don't really plan to in the near future. Now don't ask it again. The boy who asked the question, Takaru, didn't press on any further. He knew better than to get on Uchiha's bad side, and there were a lot of things to get you there. He also that there were only a few people on Sasuke's good side, but only one person would always be number 1 on that list. Naruto. It was kind of funny. As much as the two of them fought with each other, they really couldn't stand being away from each other. He wouldn't really be all that surprised if Sasuke and Naruto were already married. Bets among his friends were actually made as to when they would tie the knot. It was painfully obvious. Why couldn't they get it? Alright, so at 11:45 tonight, we head straight for the headquarters. If we're quick, we can reach our destination by 12:15. I have a hunch that the reason behind Takatori's hideout being so well hidden for so many years is that it's probably cloaked with a very powerful illusion. If that's the case, all 7 of us will need to combine forces and dispel it together. Remember to keep your voices at a whisper when communicating to each other. Make sure your headsets are static-free so we can clearly hear each other. We will all be assigned a specific channel on the communicators so we can talk to a specific person without having everyone else listen in on the conversation. If you run into any of Takatori's henchmen, hide yourself as quickly as possible. If that plan fails, knock all of them unconscious. Do not kill them. They might have some valuable information that could be useful to us. If one of you finds the stolen set of medical scrolls, report it to me immediately. They can easily be identified by their light green color and the Konoha symbol along its borders. I will retreat once I can find anything linking Takatori to the surgical murders. Report to me if you encounter any strange activity as well. Now, are there any questions? Everyone shook their heads. Good, I will explain all of this to Minako before tonight. For the time being, you're all on your own. We have a good 7 hours before we execute our mission. It was practically midnight and the 7 teenagers were all making their way through the forests and fields of the Earth Country with stealth and silence. According to the map that Sasuke had in his possession, they were about 10 more kilometers from Takatori's supposed location. Within minutes, they finally reached the area on the map. 12:13, not bad. Alright everyone, let's begin. The 7 of them all stood in a straight line with about a meter of space in between each person. They all performed the necessary hand seal for dispelling the genjutsu. All of them muttered a quiet, Kai, as not to inform their enemies of their arrival. Surprisingly enough, nothing happened as they still continued to see plant life and hear the faint chirping of crickets. Well, we know now that his place isn't disguised by an illusion. The only other logical explanation would be if it was underground. Everyone, start scavenging. Everyone began to split up and search the surrounding area for any devices, pathways, or openings that might lead them to Takatori's hideout. Unfortunately, if Sasuke's map was put to scale, they would have to cover an area of about 650 square miles. According to the tips that were given to him about Takatori's hideout, Sasuke wanted to make tonight the mission's completion date. 30 minutes passed, an hour and 15, and still nothing. Sasuke was getting frustrated and so were the other 6 teenagers. Nearly on the verge of giving up, Minako spotted something curious. It was very small, almost invisible, but she found it. A tiny, stone figurine of a tanuki, too, was meticulously placed in a small groove of a tree, with nearby shrubbery. Sasuke, over here? Could this be a clue? Sasuke looked at the tiny figurine and tried to move it with a kunai. It didn't move, so it was obviously anchored into the ground. He then tapped against it a few times with his kunai and still nothing happened. Sasuke spoke into his communicator. Everyone, Minako has just found a possible clue that might link us to Takatori. A very small figurine that was located on the ground. We don't know what it's used for yet, but it's secured tightly into the ground. Try to find anything else of similar appearance. Remember, a tiny, stone, animal figurine. If there are more, they might not be on the ground like this one and could be located in treetops or in between shrubbery. Either way, look very carefully. This figurine is about the size of your thumb, so I think it's safe to assume that the rest of them are of the same, if not similar, size. Over. Minako, you stay right here so we know where this figurine will be. Be on the alert, just in case you encounter enemy troops. We'll keep in contact if we find anything else. Minako nodded as she watched Sasuke leave from sight. Surprisingly enough, only 5 minutes later, one of the girls and one of the guys, Ayaka and Shingo, had located something each. Kitagawa Ayaka. I found a small figurine of a cat with 2 tails in the trunk of a tree. Hasabi Shingo. Just found a figurine of a turtle, shark creature with 3 tails at the shore of a small creek. Sasuke here. It seems as though that the 3 that have been found coincidentally bear a resemblance to the 9 bijus of the world. Minako has the 1-tailed tanuki, which is most likely Shukaku, Ayaka with Nekomata the 2-tailed cat, and Shingo with Kappa the 3-tailed water creature. If this pattern is correct, then search for the remaining 6. We all know what they should look like, and judging from the recently discovered ones, their locations should be similar to their natural environments if they were regular animals. Ayaka, Shingo, stay in your locations like Minako. The other 3, including myself, will try to find the rest. Over. It took slightly longer this time, around half an hour, but 4 more figurines were found. Yasunori Keiko reporting, found a strange 4-tailed figurine that looks like rooster snake hybrid in the branches of a tree. Takahashi Takaru, found the head of a dog figurine buried in the ground. After digging around it for a bit, I also found it has 5 tails. Hyuga Neji, found a figurine of a 6-tailed wolf in an area with slightly sandy soil. Uchiha Sasuke, found a figurine of a 7-tailed bird at the foot of a small rock formation. Hyuga Neji, some distance away from the wolf figurine, I can see an 8-tailed serpent underneath the roots of a tree. 1 more to go. Before Sasuke was able to give out orders to Neji to find the final figurine, he was interrupted. Honda Minako, I think I may have found the last one. Minako, I told you not to leave your spot. Don't worry, I made a Bunshin clone where I found the tanuki. In all honesty, I'm not that far from my original location. It was fairly well hidden, but I found the figurine of what looks like a fox in a small earth hole behind a tree. Alright then, now that we found all 9 of them, the real problem here is uncovering what each of them can do. Neji, use your Byakugan to see if there's anything beneath the surface of the one that you found. Roger, Byakugan? Neji sighed in disappointment. Unfortunately, the statue that I found appears to be nothing more than a statue. Unless there's something blocking my Byakugan from seeing underneath the ground, it's just a useless object. Damn, okay, I have another idea. Scout for the closest team member and look at their figurine. Okay, Neji sighed again. The two closest to me are Shingo and Keiko, and the both of them also seem to have found useless objects. After a bit more searching, Neji's eyes landed on Minako. Minako. What? Minako was gazing at the little fox with a sad expression on her face, that is, until Neji surprised her. Not so loud, I'm referring to your real position and not your clone's position. The fox figurine appears to have a small lever switch inside of it, specifically protruding from one of its tails. If you count clockwise starting from the topmost tail and with the fox's face pointing at you, it should be the third one. You heard him, Minako. Dig through the hole and activate the switch. I'm on it, Neji, can you give me a hand? It'll be hard for me see since the hole is small and there isn't a lot of light for me to see with. I will. Now simply guide it forwards and I will tell you where your fingers should land. Alright, Minako got down on her knees and pushed an arm through the hole until she touched the tiny snout of the fox's face. Alright, now, bring your index finger forwards a little bit until you touch one of the pointed tails. Minako did as she was told. Good, the switch is actually the next tail down. I think, I got it. Minako made a gentle push with the tail switch and heard it click. Shortly after, Minako heard a noise some distance in front of her. While Neji still kept his eyes on her, Minako got up and followed the noise. Neji, Minako, has anything happened? Apparently she's walking directly south of where the fox figurine was. Neji zoomed in on Minako's direction and noticed a tiny crystal embedded into a tree about 2 meters in front of the girl. It was glowing beautifully thanks to the light of the moon. Minako, stay where you are. Sasuke, I will head to Minako's position and send out a signal up into the air to indicate where we are. Inform the others of this as well. I'm on it. Sasuke passed the message on to the remaining 4 members and told them to head up to the top of the nearest tree in order to spot Neji's signal. Who's there? Don't worry, Minako, it's only me. The others should be on their way shortly. Neji pulled out a smoke bomb from his pouch and tossed it high up into the air. It blew up with a faint exploding sound as the purple cloud puffed out into the air. There's the signal, everyone move out. In a matter of minutes, the 7 ninjas were all reunited together. They all silently followed Minako's line of sight and looked at the light purple crystal. Without even a moment's notice, Neji used his Byakugan again to investigate it. Neji grunted in disgust at what he saw. What is it? Behind that crystal is a circular area of what appears to be pulsing flesh. Keiko made a face. Inside the tree? Yes. It bears a striking resemblance to the muscle fiber found in the bicep of a human arm. But something seems a little strange about it. What do you mean? Said Shingo. It appears to be bleeding due to the presence of multiple, pin-sized tears between each band of muscle. What else can you see? Said Sasuke. Although the rest of the tree looks normal, there is a tiny thread that leads from the fleshy wall surrounding the crystal and down into the ground. From there, I can't see anything else. Something seems to be blocking the Byakugan's X-ray capabilities from that point. This could possibly be the final switch. But how to activate it? The 7 of them stood thinking for a bit until Minako had a brief memory. Take this with you. I will not explain to you what it is as the material should be self-explanatory once you open it. Plus, it will help emphasize a few things. Minako then touched a hand to her utility pouch behind her and recalled another memory. Shoshin Jutsu. Although a basic skill for every medical ninja to have at their disposal, it is still a fairly difficult skill to perform due to its specific purpose. By concentrating chakra to the hand, the user is able to cure wounds by focusing their own chakra to where critical injuries lie, thus healing them in the process. Without talking to anyone, Minako stepped forward towards the tree and began to scale the trunk. It brought back some nostalgic memories involving a seemingly endless night with Sasuke, with the both of them competing against one another to see who could scale their tree before morning. Quite the memorable experience it was. No one said anything as they all watched the blonde girl make her way towards the crystal. Once she was close enough, she performed a few hand seals and her hands began to glow a light green color. She then placed her hands over the crystal as the green chakra began to flow towards it. Remarkable. From what I can see, Minako's medical jutsu is healing the wounded flesh. Everyone looked in surprise at Neji's explanation. When Minako finished, she gracefully flipped off the tree and to the side. The ground in front of the tree began to disappear as it revealed a hidden staircase. Although everyone's eyes were slightly widened in surprise, Sasuke had a small smirk on his face. "We've found it, excellent job Minako. We may be a little bit behind schedule due to the amount of time spent searching for this damn entrance, but that doesn't really matter now. Once we're inside, everyone split up and recall our plan. Remember to keep in contact with everyone if you find anything or detect something suspicious. Move out." With one final nod, the 7 ninjas proceeded down the stairs and into Takatori's lair. When the team of 7 reached the bottom of the stairs, they were immediately greeted with a fork in the road, specifically a 3-pronged fork. Sasuke went alone in the middle path, while the girls took the left and the boys took the right. "Sasuke here, all of you, inform me of your current whereabouts. Keiko here, Minako and Ayaka were with me as we have taken the left fork. The 3 of us have just recently encountered another fork with Ayaka and Minako taking one path and myself taking the other, over. Shingo here, the 3 of us have encountered another fork as well. Neji has headed down a set of stairs, I have taken a path to the right, and Takaru has taken a set of stairs leading up. Damn, just how complex is this place? Alright. Remember to stay on the alert while scouting for the scrolls." Sasuke ended his talk with his teammates and proceeded down the lantern-lit hallway. Despite the headquarters underground, its walls and halls were designed to take the appearance of a traditional 18th-century Japanese villa. It certainly reminded Sasuke of the Uchiha Manor as it too had a similar design gracing its features. Another fork? You take up and I'll take down? Ayaka nodded towards the blonde-haired girl and headed down the stairs. She eventually came across a small enclosed hallway with 3 rooms on each of the walls. She went into the left one and came across what looked like a shuriken training room. Very spacious, with only 3 wooden targets and 3 straw target dolls as the only room's decorations. Even though it was empty, she pressed on forwards just to be sure. Ever so slowly she took one step at a time while scanning the ground for any cleverly disguised traps or triggers. She reached the targets with no surprises and began her investigation on all 6 of them. Well, that was a waste of time. She walked out of the training room with an annoyed expression on her face. However, she heard the sound of something opening up. She was close to the door until a huge log came swinging down towards her. She backflipped out of the door and got down flat on the ground. She watched as the vines holding up the log tore off, and flung it towards the door of the other room behind her, smashing it to pieces. Her heart was pounding a little bit, but she regained her composure and stood up, making her way to the room that had just been revealed to her. It turns out that it was simply another training room, identical to the one she just left. She didn't even bother to check it and moved on to the last room, directly opposite from the stairs. Inside, she uncovered a fairly large room, crowded with mantles of weapons and shelves of books. She was slightly mesmerized by a wide selection of weapons ranging from bow staves to whips. Finally diverting her attention away from the pretty weapons and decorative wall scrolls, she headed for the nearest bookshelf and began to investigate. Many of the books had no titles on their covers nor their spines, but the few that did had very interesting titles, such as The Philosophy of Chakra, Beasts of the World, and The Basic Weapons. Finding nothing on the right wall, she moved to the left wall. Things got really interesting here. She found books on various fighting techniques, uses of weaponry, and even a tiny medical section that heavily based its material on pharmaceutical therapy. Although it was cool to look at the books, she was at a dead end and still nothing could be located. Ayaka then moved on to inspect the front wall for any hidden devices. It was a good 20 minutes of searching and still nothing. Sasuke reporting, "Just to clarify, we are specifically looking for a total of 6 stolen scrolls as well as 3 large medical tomes. I didn't mention the books because Tsunade-sama had recently sent a message to me via mail in Iwagakure before we began our mission. It seems as though those 3 tomes are of even greater importance than the scrolls, but all of them still need to be recovered. According to Tsunade-sama, the tomes are a dark brown color with gold embroidered sides, over." Ayaka continued to search until she touched a tiny switch in one of the wall tapestries. To her left, a small section of books flipped around to reveal a small box. When she opened it, she was greeted by a nice little surprise as a puff of gas flew right into her face. Luckily for her, she was wearing a special air filtration mask that was invented by her father some time ago. Thankfully, the gas didn't irritate her skin, so she was safe so long as she didn't inhale it. She sighed after she discovered that the box's only contents were an antique-looking dagger. Ayaka reporting, I came across 2 training rooms and a small weaponry room in the left wing and up the first set of stairs after taking the left fork. Although there are 3 rooms in the vicinity of my location, none of them had the books or the scrolls. A couple of booby traps were activated due to my interference. Be careful, it's highly probable that the rest of the place is rigged as well. Quote, Roger. The remaining 6 team members confirmed Ayaka's response and mentally tallied what else was left to be found. Byakugan. Neji scanned the hallway he was in and peered into 4 nearby rooms. 2 of them were ordinary bedrooms while the remaining 2 looked like medical bays. He walked into the nearest bay and scanned the room, but more specifically the cabinets. All he could find were medical supplies. Although he did find a small shelving unit of books in the far corner, he couldn't locate anything that looked like a scroll or a large embroidered book. He then peeked into the next room beyond the far wall. Although identical as the room he was in now, he spotted a book with fancy gold bordering in the shelves. He quickly made his way to the other room, but before stepping foot in it, he saw a tiny trigger on the ground with his Byakugan. Apparently, it would activate 2 panels on the side walls of the room. He carefully made his way to the shelves, not wanting to know what would happen should that switch be activated. The bookshelf was sealed tightly with a lock as well as an explosive tag. HMPH, even willing to destroy the information than have it fall into enemy hands, huh? Neji then made a tiny arrowhead of chakra with his index and middle finger and sliced the lock right off. The exploding tag began to glow as an indication that it was about to explode, but Neji quickly used a light Juken-style punch to the tag and immediately disabled its explosive properties. His hand sizzled a bit, but he ignored the feeling as he peeled off the tag and opened the cabinet. He found the book that he spotted and sure enough, the borders were embroidered in gold. He flipped open the cover and viewed its contents. It wasn't the real thing. Although it was a medical book, it was basically a large drug dictionary. Neji reporting, I have encountered a book that bears a resemblance to the tomes that Uchiha has mentioned. Despite the similarities, it's a fake. My guess is to check the copyright information just to be certain it's Konoha property. I'll continue my search elsewhere. Minako was slowly pacing herself along a dimly lit hallway. Okay, take your time, no need to rush, don't mess up, just be alert, and calm, one step at a time. Eventually she made her way towards a singular door at the very end of the hallway. It was very strange considering she'd been walking along a single hallway for some time to only encounter one door. As carefully as she could, she turned the knob and pushed it open. What she found was a staircase leading down. You've got to be kidding me. Like the hallway, she made her way down carefully. Although she didn't really have any special devices or body enhancements to detect any hidden traps with ease, she trusted her instincts and her sixth sense, for lack of a better word. It was odd, although the underground lair looked like a traditional Edo period home. The stairs were made completely out of stone, with a few lanterns on the walls to give it an eerie glow. Once she reached the bottom, she pushed open the wooden door and surprisingly found herself in an incredibly large room. Just how far down underground does this place go? She walked over to the railing a few feet in front of her and noticed the reason behind its immense size. It was a training arena. The structure and design was practically identical to the arena used to host the preliminary Chunin exams, but instead of the large hand seal at the back of the room, a large and beautiful statue was there in its place. Along the walls were countless rows of weapons. A few of them were mounted as well. Minako made her way to the railing, jumped off and gracefully landed into the heart of the arena. When she glanced at the statue, it gave her a strange pull, as if it was tempting her to approach it. Upon closer inspection, the very large statue, it didn't look all that big from her original place, was made entirely out of crystal. The design was a beautiful woman, elegantly, yet morbidly, wrapped in thorny vines, surrounded on all sides by strangely realistic shrubbery and flora. She touched a nearby iris flower and to her surprise, it was definitely real. But how could a healthy flower such as this grow in the middle of a concrete area with very little abundance of light? She looked back up at the statue and gazed into its transparent eyes. They were hypnotic, and yet they were sending shivers down her spine. Minako-san? She was startled at the voice and whipped her head around. From the entrance where she came from were the other two females, Keiko and Ayaka. You guys scared me there for a moment. What are you two doing here? I actually decided to meet up with Keiko first because the path that I took only had 3 rooms and no other conjoining hallways. I was a little pissed considering all I happened to run across was a single door that leads into a bathhouse. There wasn't even a hint of scented bath salts to even make it smell pleasant. Minako and Ayaka laughed at Keiko. She could be so self-centered, regardless of what the situation was. So what's this? The other 2 girls look at the statue that they caught their blonde companion staring at only moments ago. Freeze where you are. The 3 girls all turned their heads and saw that they were surrounded by around 12 henchmen, all in simple black ninja gi. None of them sported any headband, so it was safe to assume that all of them were mercenaries. Ah, and just when I thought it was going to be a quiet night, said Keiko. You ready, girls? Said Ayaka. Let's dance, sneered Minako. The battle was ridiculous. Even though it was a pretty nice ratio of 4 goons to 1 girl, each one of them was able to handle the men. Repeat men, on their own, and within minutes all of them were on the ground. You know, good help is just so hard to find these days, huh? What were all of these guys, academy students? Wait, something seems wrong? When Ayaka said that last remark, sure enough, all of the guys that they defeated disappeared in puffs of smoke. Cage Bunshin? The last clone to disappear actually took on the form of a strange, volleyball-sized gray orb. That's, put these on. Ayaka handed her 2 teammates metallic masks with a strange filter at the mouth, one much like the one she was wearing at the moment. What is? Just do it. Keiko and Minako put on their masks and all of a sudden, the ball blew up into a cloud of purple gas. The shockwave of the initial explosion sent the 3 girls flying back a bit, landing somewhat ungracefully at the base of the crystal statue. It was quite the backlash as the girls struggled to stand up. Keep these masks on, trust me, you do not want to know what would happen to you if you inhale it. Ayaka made a few hand seals. Ninpou, Haru Ichiban. 2. From the black-haired girl's mouth came out a fairly powerful gust of wind that blew away the bulk of the gas and pushed it to the sides and up the walls. Even though our position has a lower concentration of that gas in the air around us, keep the masks on anyway. Hey, look, Keiko pointed to where a large chunk of the gray ball lay. The stone tile that it was sitting on had slightly sunk into the ground. The 3 girls dusted themselves off and made their way to the indented tile as they all exchanged glances. What do you suppose? I say go for it. Minako-san, wait. Minako kicked the chunk of steel away and stepped on the tile, completely submersing it into the ground. Ayaka and Keiko both held their breaths in anticipation for some large and deadly trap to kill them all, but nothing happened. Over there, Minako pointed into the direction of a door-shaped hole in the far wall that had never been there before. Let's go. What the girls uncovered was something much more interesting than they had hoped. Little did they know that they entered into a large room, estimating about half of the size of the arena they were just in, filled with gold, jewels, complete shelves of books and countless antiques. Nothing had to be said as the 3 of them knew that they had to split up if they needed to find anything. Ayaka searched through the money-related items on the left, Keiko scavenged the antique center area, and Minako took the bookshelves on the right. Minako's fingers were ghosting over the spines of the books as her eyes carefully read the titles. Although Sasuke hadn't informed everyone of what the titles should have been, she assumed that the covers were blank, and that it would be found on the inside page instead. Her fingers grazed over a few blank spines, but none of them were the preferred dark brown color, as of yet. As if on coincidence, she saw a set of 3 dark brown books in the shelf just below the one she was currently scavenging. She got down on one knee and pulled out one book. She took Neji's advice and flipped open the front cover. She smirked. Ayaka-san, Keiko-san, look. The other 2 girls stopped what they were doing and headed over to their blonde companion. They too had smirks on their faces as they saw what Minako had discovered. Well, I guess I can safely say that part 1 of our mission has been accomplished. Good job, Minako-san. Keiko reporting. The 3 tomes have been found. Ayaka and Minako are here as well, and we will be heading outside at the designated rendezvous P. Neji reporting. I have urgent news that requires everyone's attention. Neji, what's going on? I can't believe that I didn't notice this before, but the base has been rigged with explosives buried deep inside the walls and other compartments. The reasoning as to why there aren't any henchmen inside the base is that all of them have been hiding in a hidden subsector about 3.5 miles north of Maikuri. Neji? Shit, the trigger has been activated. Chakra is flowing through a network of thin fiber cables running throughout the entire base. Evacuate now. This place is going to. And just like that, a large explosion was heard, no matter where one was located. Although the place wasn't collapsing at the moment, it began to rumble as more explosions kept ringing in their ears. Everyone, leave the base towards the rendezvous point. I still have to look for the scrolls. Sasuke, are you nuts? You're going to get yourself killed. Minako was slightly edgy. That's an order, Minako. Leave now. SASU. Sasuke shut off his communicator. Even though rubble was falling from the short ceiling, Sasuke continued to search for the scrolls. The remaining 6 team members made it safely outside, but their leader was still somewhere in the dune structure. A large explosion was heard as the door leading outside expelled a huge gust of smoke. I can't take it anymore. Minako. Everyone shouted out the blonde's name, but they were ignored as she dove into the smoke and made her way inside. She activated channel 3 on her communicator and spoke through it with a clear, yet breathy, voice. Neji, please, help me locate Sasuke with your Byakugan. I'm begging you. Neji didn't quite understand why this new girl would be so concerned about Sasuke. According to Sasuke, they have been teammates for only 2 days, and yet she had the attitude of someone who had known the Uchiha for years. She was probably just another one of Sasuke's fangirls who literally took the phrase, "I would die for him," to the extreme. He sighed, realizing that there was no way of stopping the girl now as she was already inside the collapsing base. Once you reach the initial fork that the 7 of us encountered, take the north path. You will then reach a set of 2 doors at the very end of the hall. Take the right one and head down the stairs. Once that's done, go left, right, and then straight ahead. Break down that door and Uchiha is in there. Hurry, I don't know how much time is left before the both of you are buried alive. Got it. Down the stairs, left, right, and there's the door. Hold on, Sasuke. Minako was only a few feet from the door when all of a sudden, the door exploded and pushed her back with an impressive amount of force. She skidded across the floor when she landed and shielded her eyes for the incoming trail of smoke. When it was clear enough, she should see the outline of Sasuke's slightly hunched form leaning on the doorframe. Sasuke, are you alright? I told you to leave. Minako glanced down at Sasuke and saw that his left arm was slightly burned and he was slightly dirty. However, clutched in his injured arm was a small velvet bag. Are those? Yes, they are. I'll have to talk with you later, but right now let's get the hell out of here. Minako took Sasuke's better arm and draped it over her shoulders in an attempt to keep him standing upright. Sasuke was slightly protesting at the help, but he was ignored as the 2 of them made their way through the shaking base. Back outside. Neji, where are they? They're almost. Kusariken no Jutsu. The 5 teens all heard that muffled shout, but they also saw a golden chain shoot out from the smoky door of the base. Quick, everyone grab it and pull. Obeying the Hyuga's command, the 4 other teens gripped onto the chain and secured their footing. All of them braced themselves, counted down from 5 and made a heavy pull with their combined efforts. From the door, shot out the blonde and the Uchiha as they soared through the air for a bit and then landed roughly on the dirt ground. The others got down next to them and helped them up. The second Sasuke and Minako were on their feet. The door made one final explosion that sent out a powerful burst of wind. Had it not been for the 7 of them hanging onto each other, that shockwave could have sent them flying. When the smoke cleared, the sight that greeted them was not a pretty one. A large amount of the ground that was once before them had caved down into a mini crater with full-grown trees sticking up at odd angles, and jagged pieces of earth littering the floor. In selected places were trails of smoke emitting from the ground, obviously indicating the aftermath of a detonated device. As Sasuke was catching his breath, a small smirk appeared on his slightly dirty yet still handsome face. Mission accomplished. They're the ones. The failure has been set under house arrest in the local inn. 7 of them in total, correct? Hi, and if I'm not mistaken, one of them is an Uchiha, am I right? Hi, also, she is there with them. I see, let's give them a sense of false hope. Sir, we'll let them keep what they were set out to look for, they were of no use to us anymore. But sir, the base was an obvious expendable unit. Everything in that shack is of no use to us anymore. All of the evidence has been incinerated. There is no hope of the authorities tracing them back to us. Besides, I have my eyes on a more valuable and precious prize worth more than any of that junk. You may leave. Yes, sir, soon, very soon. You will be mine, my beloved Enchantress? In front of the sinister man was a large wall scroll with a painting of a beautiful fair-haired woman, wrapped in thorny vines.
That's all for now. If you enjoy this video, then please like, share and do comments.